Welcome to Tampa Home Talk with your host, native Tampa real estate girl, Katrina Madewell, a full-time, passionate, out-of-the-box thinker, love for home ownership kind of realtor with over 21 years of combined mortgage and real estate experience. Tune in every week at this time for expert advice on everything you need to know about home ownership, finance, maintaining great credit, building wealth, and making your everyday life better, and how you can be financially successful today and tomorrow. Remember, love where you live or let Katrina fix it. Now, here's your host of Tampa Home Talk, Katrina Madewell.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us again here on Tampa Home Talk today. You can catch us here every Thursday and Saturday at 5 p.m. And we have some fantastic guests lined up for you today. The title of today's show is going to be 5 things you need to know before you ever plan another event on your own. And so if you have a wedding or a birthday party, like one of those monumental birthday parties, like the 40s or the 50s or any of those things coming up, you will definitely want to make sure that you stick around and catch our entire show today. If you're getting in and out of the car and you cannot catch the whole thing, definitely catch up with us on our Facebook page, tampahometalk.com, so we can connect you with our guests. And we also would love for you to listen to the entire show because we have great content lined up for you today. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our guest. I'm very, very happy to have you guys in studio today. Christy Craft. She is with Ideal Design Events. Thanks for coming in this afternoon.
Thanks for having me.
And we also are going to have Anthony Swick with Bay Bouquet Floral Studio.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you for joining me. So I know that, Chrissy, you and I had a chance to connect in advance, not so much with Anthony, but we have a fantastic show lined up today. And there were so many things that I really loved about you when we had the chance to talk. And one of the things for me, where I think we're sort of kindred spirits a little bit, is you show up and you do your job with passion, kind of a lot like me. So I love that about you. And I love the fact that I could tell by talking to you, you were always looking out for your client's best interest.
Always.
So that's pretty much, that's who I am at a core. You know, the mission of our show here at Tampa Home Talk is really to keep our clients, their credit in check. So to keep and maintain good credit, live within their means, and also build wealth. And my team and I have a passion for that. And we know that there's other things that come up in life, and expenses and things that people want to do, you know, weddings, funerals, whatever, all of that stuff. But, you know, there's a lot to be said for the things that go into the day-to-day business on my end and in yours. Mm-hmm. And when we were talking, I was very amazed at a lot of the things that you thought about that I probably would never even dream about. And that's where experience shows up, where, you know, the non-experience doesn't. And I know a lot of people, they can plan stuff on their own, just like with real estate. They can get through a process on their own, but boy, is it a hard way to buy a house in this market, especially. So let's talk about like who your company is. Introduce yourself to the person listening and talk about like where you come from. Like, why did you want to do this? What made you show up and pick this career? And, you know, if it's a case like mine, it kind of picked me, but I think sometimes that happens.
You know, Katrina, I feel the same way. I feel like to be a wedding planner and an event planner, it really has to be in your soul. I don't feel like this is a job that you can learn. I feel like there are certain things that can be learned, but the extent of what we do and the hours that we put into this job, you have to love every single second of it, or you just can't do it.
So we were talking about the hours. That is so funny because I would love to chime in on that. I know I have a lot of our past clients and our friends that listen to the show, and anybody that's been around me for any period of time or work with me knows that I keep crazy hours, right? Like, especially if I'm getting ready to go on a trip or whatever. I'm up late, I'm up early, and I'm like in it to win it. And I know from talking to you and your emails, it's a similar story.
Oh, yeah. It's not unusual for any of my clients to get an email from me at 3 a.m. And sometimes that's that I'm still working at 3. And sometimes it's I will sit up in bed and think, oh my gosh, did I order chairs? Did I confirm the chairs and the color? And sometimes at 3 a.m. I will text Anthony and I'll just say up, because I figure up is safe. If you're not up, you can ignore it. And if you are, he's up. He calls me back. Hey, what are we doing on the chairs? Did we confirm the color? Did we confirm what color sash? What style? I mean, come on, there's 25 ways to tie a sash on a chair.
That's something I'm so jaded. Like, I would have no idea. Like, I would think you just put the sash over the chair and, you're done. But again,
and the magic sash fairy ties it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I'm sure that's the running joke in your industry. So 25 years experience.
25 years experience. Kind of backed into the job. Went on a fam trip with a best friend.
And so I'm going to break it down and keep it simple. So fam trip, for anyone listening, is a familiarization trip. And it's a lot of travel agents and people in that type of industry, which my degree actually is in travel and tourism. Never worked in there a day in my life, but that's where it's at. So the fam trips actually are where the people send you on whatever type of trip, whether it's a hotel or a cruise or whatever, to be familiar with that trip because they know that you can resell that product. So that's what a fam trip is.
Correct.
Go ahead.
So I was invited to go, quote unquote, as an assistant to a fam trip in Montreal. And by the end of the trip, I was like, oh my God, I just found out who I am. This is who I am.
It's like you woke up, you're alive.
Yes. And I came home and I was like, all right, let's do this. And I honestly dove right into it. I had no idea what to do, but I always knew. I've always been a planner. When I was a little girl, I would write out plans on how many people would float on my raft in the pool.
That is fabulous.
It's always been in me. So when I started this, I was like, oh my gosh, I know who I am now. And this is it.
You know, what's funny is experience isn't all the time everything. It was funny. I was talking to another agent that is in an area. She's in Lakeland, which is not really an area where, our radio signal is or even where we sell property. And she was actually, it was a property I had listed. She was listing on the other side of the transaction, right? So we had two buyers agents in the middle. I'm not going to say anything bad about them, but they weren't pulling their weight, as I guess is a nice way to say it. So I started talking to her, and she's only been in the industry for about 15 months, sorry. But if you talk to her, you would think it was 15 years. And she was just amazing. And a lot of it is just attention to details. And she's like, I come from the corporate world, so I got this. And it's probably similar for you.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We're actually just making fun of, and I think I actually showed you the article, too, where right now they're offering a wedding planning course for $29.
Yes.
And I saw the course, and I thought, oh, my God, how many messes am I going to clean up after this one?
I told you should just show up and pass out your business card as a backup plan. That's what I would do.
I know. This wonderful girl, Brittany, is our intern from UCF, and when she came in, my first sentence was, if you think what we do is like that movie, there's the door. Because that whole Jennifer Lopez in the beautiful suit with the microphone, that is not this industry. It's work and it's dedication. And there are maybe 1 in 10 events where I will look human.
It's washing the bride's feet.
Exactly.
We were talking about washing the bride's feet after a beach wedding during our planning meeting. So what are some of the most commonly asked questions that you get? Like, let's start with question number 1. Like, before someone, the title of today's show is 5 things you need to know before you ever plan your own event. So what are some of the top things? Like, what's the number 1 thing somebody would need to know before they ever plan their own event?
At the same time and see if we're both right. Budget.
Money.
That's the first thing. How much is this going to cost me? Mm-hmm. That's the first question out of anyone's mouth.
I think not a lot of people plan as much as they should.
No, and this is not the day and age where the parents have this little nest egg for their daughter's wedding. That's just not going to happen. That happens 1 in every 10 weddings, that there is actually a wedding fund with their parents that are going to foot the entire bill for the wedding.
So where are you finding, like, if that's, obviously that would make sense if that's not the economy and the day and age that we live in. So where are you finding that people basically finance that?
Everybody puts in what they can.
Okay.
The bride's parents will put in, the groom's parents will put in, the grooms will put in, and the brides will put in. And then sometimes that's not even enough, and that's where we have to start getting creative with what they want versus what really they can have based on that outnumber.
So, and I know this is really a loaded question, but we talked about even people doing kind of simple beach weddings. You guys probably can do a lot with that. Mm-hmm. as well as like even something at someone's home.
Yes.
Can we talk about both of those scenarios and just like let's talk about a beach wedding for starters? And Anthony, please chime in. This is very interactive.
Absolutely.
So anytime she has something to say or you got something to add to that thought, please do. But let's say I'm on a shoestring budget and I'm going to say I have no money. I'm going to pull my money together with my family, and I want to get married on the beach and have the best wedding I can have for the smallest budget.
We get excited when that happens.
Where do you tell me to start? Like, where do you go?
Well, the first thing that's going to come out of my mouth is, do you know that you can't have alcohol on the beach?
That you cannot have alcohol on the beach. Great.
Yes.
Is that any beach?
That's any beach. You cannot serve alcohol on the beach. Unless, of course, it's tied to, like in Paso Grill, there's a restaurant that you can have a wedding reception at on the beach because it's their liquor right there. But if you were just going to tent the beach and have a wedding, you can have alcohol.
Okay, so let's talk about that tented beach wedding. Like, what goes into that?
Oh, my gosh. Permits?
You have to elaborate on that one.
Well, the first thing is people try and not permit things. And the only thing that's going to happen when you don't do that is you're going to get caught. And the last thing you want is that man with the briefcase and the clipboard walking up in the middle of your wedding reception to tell you don't have a permit and you're done.
Is this someone like from Parks and Recs that walks the beaches?
It is.
Okay.
Or sometimes
Police
I think
officers give you a ticket.
They do.
Police officers give you a ticket. And do you remember the wedding in Clearwater Beach? The fireman. The bride's father was part of the fire department in Clearwater Beach. They still didn't permit, and here came their fire inspector.
Oh no, the same squad.
The tent go up. Yep.
So they're basically, so you're planning, you've got, a small wedding, 25 people maybe? 10 people?
Small weddings, usually about 40 guests total,
40?
Plus bridal party.
Okay. So you have 40 people at this wedding. You don't get a permit, and you have thrown up this tent because they didn't hire you to help them. So what does that look like? Walk me through that. Describe it like I'm blind.
Wait a minute. Are you saying if we didn't do it and they did it?
They did it on their own?
We'll have some beautiful lawn chairs. You'll have card tables. You'll have some really unique non-detailed items.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. Photos from the dollar store, which, you know what? Done right.
Right.
They're very nice.
They work, yeah.
Right.
Yes.
I think the difference is...
My favorite one is that being in the wedding industry, whether you're a floral designer or a planner or even a DJ, when you go to events, you're not really a guest because you're kind of like, why is that cake near a sand dune?
Right.
On 25 mile an hour winds. And when we cut the cake that time that I was the guest, it was crunchy.
You know what's so funny? I guess it's similar in our industry because, for example, even my mother-in-law, right? You would think I go to her property all the time, whatever, I'd notice stuff. But when I go to her house, I'm not there looking at it with my real estate goggles on. So when I go back for a listing appointment, I have to look at it like any other house I would go into. So yes, I might be familiar with the floor plan, but that's about it,
right.
And we walk through the property and you notice all the stuff. Like, there had been an air handler that had a small little leak. They back up and overflow. It's not an uncommon thing, but it has to be repaired.
Right.
And so that's the things that if I was an agent, even a buyer's agent walking through a property, looking at that stuff, I would notice it. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting that you mentioned, the cake is crunchy because we had this beach wedding and there's sand in it.
And nobody put up a tent wall behind a cake, which would have solved the whole problem. Right. The sand can't fly with there's a tent wall.
And I think most of the time people think that they can't afford it. That's the downfall.
They think they cannot afford a professional to assist them.
And what happens is so many people might say, well, we have this minimum or we have this because all they want is big. What can you do with a normal everyday person? You can do fabulous if you're a designer and a creator. That's the difference. So why be afraid to ask?
I mean, there's a lot of value in that because like for us, and we try not to base anything, and we have properties that are, not that we sell a lot of 40 or 50 or sure. $100,000 properties, but we get people that are investors. Maybe they buy multiple, and we do them on up into $1 million plus. But our philosophy behind it is it's not the dollar amount; it's the family behind the house.
Exactly,
and it's who they know that they can connect us with because they want them to have a great experience like we gave them.
Totally.
And
that's almost one of the first things. On our way here, I got a phone call from a new inquiry. She got my name from another bride, and when I was going through things, when people ask for money, there's so many things that go into, like pricing a house. There's so many aspects that will go into that price. pricing a wedding is the exact same.
I don't even give anybody a price until I see their house.
I said
I went in this house last week and the cat pee on the carpet was so bad that there's no way. I just said, you have to replace the carpet. I can't list it like this.
Absolutely.
I mean, you're going to be a short sell if you try to sell it without the carpet replaced. It's the truth. And, and sometimes I find it's easier just to throw my own self under the bus.
Right.
Because I have kids and I have dogs and I've lived in that kind of house. I get it. Our first house had freaking white carpet from the builder. But what I realized when I sold that house, and I wasn't a real estate agent at the time, but what I realized was we had like no traffic. It was horrible. The minute we bought the carpet and laid it out on the floor, it wasn't even laid yet. It was just laying out because it looked better than the carpet that was there. We got an offer. It's the same thing, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
So carry on.
She called and she was like, well, how much do you think? And I was like, listen, this is the first thing I try and tell people. We are family owned. It's my husband and myself. I don't have to answer to a corporation. And half the time, if Tom's not in the room, I don't answer to anybody. So I was like, you need to tell me your situation. What are you trying to do? What are you trying to be? And what are you trying to accomplish? And then we can help you. Just, prices are in black and white because I don't care if you're a Rockefeller or not. It's our price. But are we flexible? Of course, because it depends on who you are. If you come to us and you're military or you've got an illness in your family and you need some help, we're going to be the first people to help.
I'm like that too.
We have to give back what we've been given. And we're very blessed in this industry. I'm lucky.
very soft. I'm the same way. I'm soft on the inside. You'll get so far with me with honey and, sweetness. But if you try to threaten me, it's on.
It's on big time. And I think that's another thing.
And don't come and ask me for financial help if you have 400 Greek wedding guests.
No.
That's not happening.
No. And we talk about that all the time because you hear other event companies and other floral designers or floral arrangers, whichever classification you're within.
Will you share on that? Because you hear floral designer and I'm thinking florist. So what's the difference?
We don't use
big
that
difference. A florist is a place to buy flowers, in my opinion.
Okay.
The person that works behind there is a floral arranger or a designer. The difference between a floral arranger to me, I'm an educator in the industry. I'm certified through the American Institute of Floral Design, so I have AIFD accreditation. I have my PFCI. I'm Professional Floral Communicator International.
Thank you for breaking down those acronyms.
You're welcome. I am CFD as well as FSMD, so I have my master's.
So what is that? You can't say it and then not say what it is.
Yeah, CFD is Certified Floral Designer, which is through the American Institute as well, and then FSMD is my Florida Master's. Okay. So I teach, educate, travel, promote. I do product development. But besides that, I have passion for retail and events. And we talk about this all the time. You have so many people that walk into a flower shop or into an event company, and you have event companies that are going to sell a bride something that's their event, and then they're going to sell them flowers, and they're not designers, so they bring in freelancers. Okay, fine, if that works for you, I understand that. But you're paying, what's the dollar cost on it?
Same, right? Or higher,
right.
probably.
Or you're going to walk into a flower shop and you're going to talk to somebody that's going to open up a book and say, which 4 of these do you want? They don't care about your budget. They don't care about your style. They don't care about anything because they don't want to be creative. They want to do in and out.
And they don't know your story.
They don't know who you are. So
That's
you have to talk. You have to know facial expressions. You got to understand. I don't care if you have, we just did an NFL wedding last weekend. Yes, it was fabulous, over the top. Her and I've had 3 appointments this week together with brides. And one of them was nice. 2 of them were smaller. But the smaller girls, they still deserve what the NFL girl got.
Right.
Because of who they are. And just because you don't have.
It's their special day.
Absolutely. And we always say, it doesn't matter. You give me a big budget, of course the wedding's going to be great. But how many of you can do a wedding or an event or a party, a gala, a birthday party on a budget and make it look great? That's the challenge.
Yes.
That's the challenge. And we love it because we're designers.
Mm-hmm. Well, like you say, you get to open up your whole creative, right brain side where you can think it through and be creative and figure it out. We have to do that all the time.
Yeah, right.
We have to figure it out.
And then we give high fives when we're done because we're like, we got it. Look at that.
That's, that is priceless. And I think I shared with you, I didn't have a wedding planner. Mm-hmm. I didn't. I was real. I mean, I'm transparent.
Our wedding reception was at the Tampa Garden Club.
Hey.
Yes.
Hey. Great venue. Beautiful venue.
We're so low profile, like not fancy people. That's just who we are. It's who I am, my core. We've been married for 16 years. So I got to find the bill still to see how much that was. But
$4.50.
Yeah, a little more. But we literally, I told you, I think I spent $350 on my dress, which my dad bought. And it makes sense. Like now that we're having this conversation, we're thinking about it. And back then I remember thinking, I can't afford a wedding planner. Like my husband and I are just starting out. We can't, we just bought a house. We can't afford a wedding. And there were so many things that went wrong. I mean, it was still my wedding, but it probably could have been alleviated on a very small budget.
And you know, and
which was there anyway. Like I was thinking I didn't have it, but the reality,
you just allocated it.
Here's
to
the thing.
Absolutely.
Here's the thing, and I'm going to try to just break this down for the listener so that it makes sense. Here, I didn't have a budget, right? But my dad, in reality, paid $350 for the dress. He paid another $150 for alterations. Yep. Then my grandparents ended up purchasing the food, which we weren't going to do. We ended up, I think my other uncle ended up buying some of the beverages and the alcohol and that kind of stuff. So there was a number of things that came from a number of places, just like you mentioned. So if you're thinking right now, I have this great event, but I really cannot afford a wedding coordinator or an event planner or something like that, I would challenge you to reach out to us here at Tampa Home Talk. You can catch us on our off-air number, and it's 813-377-2775 or at tampahometalk.com. Again, that number is 813-377-2775. And if you go to Tampa Home Talk, you will see, and also our Facebook page, our announcement cards where we had you guys on the show, and all of your contact information's on there. So I'm going to highly, highly recommend that you reach out to Christy Craft, and you also reach out to Anthony Swick, and you let them schedule some time with you, right? Because there's no call, none. The consultation is just to see where you can go.
Absolutely. There are some people that do charge for consultation, but I kind of feel like if the best thing that I can do for you is point you in the right direction, I'm good with that.
Absolutely.
You know, so if we take an hour or two or three and I help you lay out your plans and you just cannot afford professional help, I would rather tell you how to use the money you have more effectively than you do something that's going to create a mess and a headache.
Absolutely. I gotcha. So I imagine since you have to fix things and be creative and that type of stuff, a lot of your process, and again, I mean, obviously you can do the elaborate stuff. You just did an NFL wedding, so the sky is the limit.
Sure.
But on the shoestring budget, because that takes us from A to Z, do you help sometimes the bride and the groom with regards to figuring out where some of those funds are to pull together their budget?
Absolutely.
Every day.
Yeah,
totally.
Every
day.
day.
You have a conversation with mom and dad, and I mean, you have to take me through your process because I'm so green. Like, I don't know anything about it.
When someone comes in for that first meeting, you know, we try and keep it to an hour, but like you and I had lunch that day. We were there much, much longer because there are so many, anybody can get married. Anybody can get married, but having a wedding is completely different.
Yes.
So there's so many things that we have to go through. How many bridesmaids do you have? Well, if you have 2, that's completely different than 9
that we talked to today.
Yes. And, you know, we've had one that had 14 bridesmaids. And then we don't even have room on the church. So there's so many things that we need to figure out. Do you have a theme? Some girls are really into theme weddings because of that website, Pinterest. And it takes them into all these different directions. And my job is to take all of those different directions, focus it down, look at the important things, which is really going to come out to guest count and budget.
Gotcha.
Those two are what's going to come together to make that wedding happen. So if you come in and you say, I have 100 guests and I have X amount of budget, that's really easy. But then if you come in and you have 400 Greek people that want to break dishes and X amount of budget, that's a completely different event.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
You can buy the plates at the dollar store, but they still cost $1 a piece.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep.
So in
that first consultation, we're going through. I have a form that I use, and it's throughout the years. It's gotten just like our contracts. Our first contracts were 2 pages. Now I'm at 12 pages because every wedding something happens that needs to be addressed in the contract. So
I imagine you want to be as transparent as possible.
Exactly.
And get it all up
and
front.
I want people to have a complete vision of what they're doing, and I don't want later to have to go back and say, we didn't talk about parking at the Don Cesar, or we didn't talk about this or that. So I want everything covered so that they have a good picture as we're going through things. So how many guests? What's your theme? What's your ideal? Do you want to walk down a bed of butterflies? There's so many different things that go into weddings these days, and so many things that are possible because our combined inventory is 30,000 square feet of inventory.
Oh, that's another thing too. You have your huge warehouse.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So we talked about that. So you probably should share on that too, because you're not renting that stuff from somewhere else.
No.
Right.
And you're including that in your price.
Exactly. That's how we can be the most effective helping people that don't have a huge budget, because I already own it. Some wedding planners will tell you they own it. Then they will rent it from someone else and upcharge it 15%.
Or how much better when they show pictures of your inventory to their clients that belongs to them.
There was
your
another
inventory,
wedding
Christy?
planner that showed a
But-
picture of my warehouse to a client as hers.
See, but I think our strength in numbers is what's important because we believe in ourselves.
Yes.
So therefore, we invest in ourselves, which in the long run helps our client.
Right.
And we don't do all this print ad. We don't believe in all that. We stay busy, and our increase every year is a very good percent
Right.
in this market because we have people saying, hey, guess who I worked with? Who this takes one person.
Yep.
That's all that matters to us.
You're like me. There's more value in
Being
instead,
real.
well, that, but instead
Yeah.
of running ads and all this
Absolutely.
stuff, I mean, anybody
Absolutely.
can
Won't
do
do it.
that.
Absolutely.
But instead of spending that money in that, it just makes more sense, like for somebody like me, to have a small little storage unit with things that have accumulated. Some of it
Right.
outdates and you sell it or whatever. But you can pick up things at a very good price, right? Like a Bell's Outlet and things here and there that are really neutral, like they're
Well,
gender neutral.
Our
Ours
best
is a
thing
little
to
different.
do is...
But I mean, like, my point behind it being is I would rather spend that money in that warehouse and with some of those things that I can have a listing client use.
Right.
Like, I have a property right now that's 4,000 square feet and it was bare.
Right.
And I was the third listing agent that came in there and I had to come in and say, you don't have enough furniture to fill
Call
this
us.
house
We
up.
can do that too.
Yeah.
We can do staging too. We promise.
And I'm just like, a buyer's going to walk through here and they're
Sure.
going to go, you don't have enough furniture to fill it, and neither do I, and they're not going to make an offer on the
Absolutely.
house.
Right.
So it's the same type of thing. I mean, you just have to look at where you're spending your money
Right.
and make sure it
Right,
makes sense.
Right.
And it's an ongoing
where
investment.
you're spending your time. Because, when brides are running around trying to pick up 20 different things from 20 different places, they can walk into our warehouse and pick up all 20 things from the same place. And
So they're
that's
actually
how
going through
we
and
did it.
picking like whatever
Right.
they're going to use.
And then what are they going to do with the 20 that they bought after
Exactly.
the fact?
Right. Who
Where are you
wants to
gonna
carry
store
that
it?
stuff?
Right.
No.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
why with staging, most of the stuff we have in our warehouse is accessory stuff. We rent all the
Absolutely.
big stuff. We
Yep.
have a relationship with buddies and we let them bring it
Sure.
and store it and move it and all that stuff.
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we'll use some more. We'll use that other example that we talked about because you made a couple key points during our planning meeting with the home wedding, which I think are becoming kind of a big thing.
They are.
I know Jodine, the girl that she works with us, she's our client care coordinator. She got married at like this farmhouse or something on a bunch of property. But there's a lot of things that you don't know about that you should be concerned with, and the homeowner, whose ever property it is, should be concerned with.
Absolutely.
And then I'd love for you guys to share stories because I know you got a lot.
The first thing that you need to figure out when you're having a home wedding is how many people are going to be on your property. Because the how many people is going to equate to, do we have enough facilities? Because all of those people in a 5-hour open bar are going to need a restroom. So we talk about facilities. We talk about parking. You can have a beautiful home that will put 200 people in your backyard, but where are they all going to park?
Right.
And are their cars going to be out there at the end of the wedding, or are they going to be towed because you didn't consider parking? So we look at bathrooms, we look at parking, we look at the
Homeowner's liability.
The homeowner's liability. We look at the electric plan.
Boy,
for
our
a
insurance
house.
company would love to chime in on that one. I'm sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We look at the electric because we need to know, can you still run your house? And we run the caterer and the lighting and the band and everything else, or are we all going to be in the dark for 45 minutes when we blow your circuits?
Absolutely.
So we have to look at electricity. We have to look at the functionality of the space that we have for catering. We once did a wedding up in Lake Pretty, and it was a Jewish wedding. So we had to make sure that the facility that we were using for the catering was kosher. So I actually had to cover an entire garage in foil, just like it was wallpaper. And that way the rabbis could come in and say, okay, you can cook. And we're ready to go. So there's all sorts of different things in a home. I think home weddings are wonderful. I mean, it always makes me think of that movie, Father of the Bride, where they got married in her parents' backyard.
Where she grew up. Absolutely.
Right. I think home weddings are wonderful, but I think that if you try and do it without professional help, you're going to end up with either a nightmare or you're never going to enjoy yourself because you're running around in 20
Yes.
different
That's-
directions,
yep.
trying to make sure that all of the things that are handled are handled.
We hear a lot of times where people say, "Oh, we can handle this," or "My best friend can handle this." Well, who's going to be involved in the wedding?
My
Who's going to be
aunt's
involved
gonna
in the
coordinate
event?
the wedding.
They're,
We're
they're,
gonna
they're not
cook.
going to hang out at the wedding
No.
and enjoy the event.
Exactly. We're going to do our own centerpieces. We're going to do our own decor. You hear this all the time. And then by the time you look at what it takes for you to put into it, when you're not a professional doing it, it costs you more money than what it does us.
Right. You
so
might
again,
not realize it, but by the
it
time you
does.
tally it up at the end,
Oh, absolutely.
You're paying a whole lot more.
And as a professional, I have $2 million in liability insurance that I'm going to assign to that event. So that way it gives the homeowner a little bit
Security.
more security so that they know if someone does a cartwheel and takes out something, it's covered. It's
Right.
not going to be an, oh my God, now we've got to clean up from the wedding. In addition, when we leave a wedding that's at a home,
We leave it the way it
everything
started.
comes with us. That house is in the same condition than when we first got there and said hello in the morning.
And that's
the
huge.
trash comes with us. Like the tables come with us, the chairs come with us, and it's because we own all of that. We are not. You don't have to wait for a rental company
Show up
to pick
Monday.
up on Monday because they'll charge you $200 to do a Saturday night late pickup. It goes with us on our truck, and we say our goodbyes, and you get your house back.
I mean, there's so many little things like that. So, I mean, I have no problem throwing myself under the bus. So I'm going to do that and just share like some of the things that I encounter with my own wedding. And it was okay. But, I told you the 2 jobs that my husband had was to hire the video guy, which was some guy that he worked with, which never showed up.
Oh.
And this was pre-cell phone days, right? I got married 16 years ago. So we have an audio cassette tape, which we don't even have a player for anymore. And I mean, really, I'm just being real, really, that's what it is. And then he was supposed to try on his tux, and that didn't happen either. And I imagine you guys probably babysit the grooms too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Absolutely. I typically meet my grooms at the store on Friday
Key
to
West.
try and
Key West groom. I go back to this. I officiated on this one. I don't mean to interrupt, but I have to.
No, I want you to,
couple.
please.
Love this couple more than anything in the world. We're going on a destination down to Key West. I took all my product with me.
And again, the
Yeah.
reason that we all went together versus using vendors in Key West is
'Cause
because
we knew.
I know Anthony and I know his style, and I know that I'm not going to end up with Gerber daisies and baby's breath. And no disrespect to anybody that
Right,
likes
absolutely,
that.
absolutely.
But that's not the norm.
And the
So-
perfect example was this groom. We had worked with them probably a good year.
A year.
And we were talking about these fabulous linen suits. I would when I meet with them, I'm a designer, so I care about the decor, not just the table arrangements. So I care about the whole finished product. And he was making comments I needed to have linen suit and linen suit. And we give him all these places. Well,
Negotiated the discounts.
So 2 weeks before the wedding, he calls us yelling at us because why can't I get my linen suit? Well,
Don't tell the bride
yeah.
I never bought the suit.
I never got my suit. What am I going to do? And then he's yelling and screaming at us. This is the point where if you don't have, it's like in life, I think, as a parent, I have a schedule. If you don't put a schedule, you're going to forget those little details. And then you're going to be stressed out. Then you're going to be freaking out. And then you're going to be calling someone screaming and yelling and ranting and raving when that's not who you really are. In all reality, he got married in a fantastic cream-colored non-linen suit.
Non-linen.
So
It was October. Hello.
right? So you
Well.
you really even if it's a day of person to handle those things 2 weeks up to, that's important. For me as a designer, I hate to walk into an event for someone that has no clue what's going on.
yeah.
We're like, okay, where do I start? Why isn't your
The
linen?
guests are confused.
Yeah, why isn't
Right.
the linens dropped when you scheduled me and you don't have linens coming for another hour? I'm standing here. It's a big game.
Yes.
It really is.
Stuff it has a hierarchy. It has an order that it has to go in, just like our business.
Absolutely. But you know what? We got them married. We had a ball of fun, and we enjoyed Key West.
Yes.
And
lot.
that's
It's a
the
great
bottom line.
place.
Absolutely.
A
Absolutely.
lot. And it was a beautiful wedding.
Phenomenal.
Out on a pier.
And it was gorgeous. Absolutely
And
gorgeous.
absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
So the rocky road that we had with the suits,
Minimal
and then-
things,
yeah.
but it to them it was drastic. So why go through that? Why go
Right.
through that? That's not
Okay,
worth
so
it.
the suit I told you was all white, right? With
Love
the
it.
long tails and the white shoes and the black pants.
Black
My
pants.
husband didn't try on a suit. So my stepson, which was little at the time, was supposed to have matching tux, had the all white suit with the white shoes, and my husband has the black pants. I'm thinking, I was so bad. What do you mean you didn't try on your suit? That's the only freaking job
It's
you
your
had.
job, right.
Was to try on the tux, and you didn't do it. So, we're calling the people from the place where we rented it, said, what are you going to do? They're like yanking stuff off the mannequin, hoping it fits my husband. I mean, you can imagine what a zoo. I'm telling you, this is what it
Right.
was. So then the whole wedding's held up. We're starting late. I mean, it's just quite an ordeal. And then before I even got there, I mean, there was things spilled on my bridesmaids' dresses. I'm not even going to say what. They were all wrinkled because they were like satin and they were wrinkled. I mean, they were. It was bad.
Yeah.
I had
we carry a steamer with us 24
I had my
hours a
hair
day.
done, and I had my dress in the back of my friend's car because she was adamant that I took it because my car was small and her truck was bigger. So what happens?
You left it.
Oh, if my car, went to go get my hair done, right? I come back. If my car overheats, just put some oil in it. And I love her. That's my best friend. But the car started smoking. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to blow up her car. So I stop, and here I am dressed, right? I don't have no time to take a shower. I'm getting my hair done, and I'm opening this thing after it cools, after I've had my hair done to get to pour the oil in there. So what happens? The cap drops down the car, and it doesn't fall to the ground where I can reach under the truck and pick it up. It catches on something underneath the bottom of the truck that's way too long for my arm to reach. Like, my arm is not going to reach it. And I'm sitting here going, well, this is fabulous. I don't know how this is going to work. And, I mean, it was just one thing after the next. And the other thing, too, is, you know, my grandparents paid a lot of money to cater this food, which we weren't even going to have. I told you we were going to have somebody make it because we didn't have any money. And we didn't even get to eat. Like, it was so busy and just crazy. My husband and I did not even eat. So that when we left, because even the DJ was running everything at that point, is what it was. Yeah. So when we left, we literally stayed at the airport and we ate there. We got, like, I think, not food poisoning, but we got sick. We were, like, literally thrown up in the shower. And then so we didn't eat.
Because you didn't eat.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We ate this food at the airport because that was the only alternative because we hadn't eaten all day. And here was this mess. So then the next day, right, we're supposed to fly out because we're going to the Poconos, and here we are running through the airport, which that was pre 9/11, obviously, trying to pass out tuxes and dresses and all this stuff to, you know, people from the next day because they didn't get it the night before. So that's the kind of stuff that I'm sure you have a million stories for, but that's my story and it's real. And I didn't have a wedding coordinator.
Oh, absolutely. Our goal is that these are funny stories that we tell you when you come home from your honeymoon. So that you don't know that anything happened.
The food cart falls halfway through the wedding, and half the guests didn't get fed, but the bride didn't know.
If you don't know what happens, I mean, it's not going to spoil your day.
Absolutely.
We had a wedding this past Saturday, and 11 uninvited guests showed up and demanded food.
And they ate at 3 different tables, so they ate 3 times.
They sat at table 9 and were fed. And then when table 9 was done eating, they moved to table 13 and acted like they were new people and sat down and ate again. And then when they were done there, they moved over to table 11.
So much for the vendors' meals.
What is wrong with people?
Finally, the caterer was like,
I think I saw you.
Just table 13?
Yeah.
Wow. So the house weddings, there was something that you mentioned that was really important that I never thought about.
Weather.
Absolutely.
That's one.
We live in Florida.
Yep.
We live in Florida. You have to have a backup plan. We did a beautiful home wedding in Brandon. The owner of the home refused to allow anyone in her house. So when we had bad weather...
So this was a friend of the bride.
This was a friend of the bride's. And it was a great home, a great property. But
she didn't want 200 people probably tracking in and out of her house.
200 drunk people tracking through
exactly.
the house. Absolutely. Yeah. So when we knew weather was coming, and we go to the bride and groom and say, listen, we need a tent. This is what it's going to cost, and we have about an hour to get it here. If you're not understanding and open to the fact that this is something we have to do, then your guests are dancing in the rain.
Yeah, because it's not cheap.
No, tents are not cheap.
And you get a nice tent, like something that's not going to blow over.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Professional.
Yeah.
Absolutely
Yes.
professional.
So that's what I'm saying. Someone can order. We talked about they can get a tent for less, but
yes, you
it may not even hold up the weather.
But hopefully your guests are Stevie Wonder, so they don't see what it looks like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or, I mean, God forbid it's heavy rain. We get these monsoon rains, and it caves in, it collapses,
Exactly.
blows away. You also mentioned insurance, different insurance that you have and that you sometimes you make your brides get.
It's a requirement. We have several different ways our bride can work with us. You know, they can come in for consultation. We can just simply do their day of. We can help them plan and then execute, or we can do all of it and they get use of our inventory. So if you are a client that is an inventory client and you have absolutely everything, it is a requirement that we make you purchase wedding insurance. And it is such a small amount of money for a huge peace of mind. In the average, wedding insurance is anywhere from $250 to $400. That's it.
So what kind of things do the wedding insurance cover? Like, what is that for specifically?
It covers acts of God. If there's a hurricane and we can't have a wedding, you don't lose your money. If a family member has, for example, a heart attack, and you just feel like, you know, grandma has a heart attack and you can't have a wedding, you don't lose your money. If a vendor goes out of business between the time that you get insurance and the wedding, you don't lose your money. So it really protects them.
They pay for everything, the whole thing to be recreated?
Exactly. Well, what they do is they take the amount of coverage that you've purchased minus a deductible, and they cut you a check. So it depends on what you've paid everybody. So let's say, for example, you paid the venue $3,000 and their roof blew off. We're going to file the insurance for you. They're going to take out a $250 deductible, and you're going to get your money back in 5 days, which then allows you to go and book another venue. Versus trying to figure out, like with the wedding in Brandon, when we knew that it was going to monsoon, immediately my staff is on the phone calling venues that we know, trying to figure out where can we move 175 people to. And we found
the day
a venue,
of the wedding.
Exactly. Yeah. In the morning. And then we found a venue in Ybor City, but that's not free. It was $2,500 for the venue. And then we would have to think, how are we going to get hold of 175 people? So that's where we have call lists for our weddings. So when the bride and groom said no, that was not something they were interested in doing, then we fall back to plan B, which was the tent. And then plan C, everybody just got wet because they didn't get a tent.
So that's what happened? They didn't get the tent?
They did not get the tent. Half the guests hung out in the pool house and half in the garage.
In other words,
and you probably had
really
people leave,
time.
too, I'm sure. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
I wouldn't hang out for that.
No.
I just wouldn't. I mean, it's, you end up, you're out in the weather like that, you can end up getting sick. I mean, there's a lot of things that can go into that. So, and didn't you mention something else, too? There was another insurance. I know you said wedding insurance. What was it? Oh, alcohol. We talked about alcohol.
Oh, absolutely.
Insurance.
If you're going to have a wedding at a house or at a venue, and you're not going to have a licensed liquor caterer handle it, alcohol insurance can save you from a world of a mess. Alcohol insurance runs anywhere between $200 to $500, depending on how much coverage you want. We suggest $2 million. But if someone's drinking at your wedding, and let's say you just bring a bunch of liquor bottles and everybody's drinking and they leave and get in a car accident, inevitably that's coming back to where did they drink at. Mm-hmm. And if, unfortunately, someone does something stupid, you don't want to start your married life millions of dollars in debt after a lawsuit. Liquor insurance takes care of that. It just covers serving liquor to people that you don't know what they're going to do.
So can you share the story that you shared with me about the... it was a house wedding. There was a pool. The bridesmaid was dancing.
Yes, the one we did on Lake Tarpon. Phenomenal house. I mean, right out of Better Homes and Gardens. We had a band and a DJ. 250 people having an amazing time, and somehow the bride thought it would be smart to jump in the pool. She thought, oh, it's going to be fun. It'll be great pictures. She jumps in the pool. Water splashes all over the pool deck. Maid of honor takes 2 steps, feet fly in the air, and her head hits the concrete. Blood everywhere. The people that were around her, of course, were drunk. So they're all like, oh, she's fine. And I'm like, blood out of the head is not fine in any instance. So we had to call 911, get the paramedics there. They load her and take her. And her parents, instead of getting in the ambulance to go to the hospital with her, shut the doors, said goodbye, and went back to the dance floor. It was like no big deal. Hey, it's still a party.
It's interesting because the one point that I noticed and what stuck in my mind after we talked about that was, everyone's there to celebrate your day. Likely, almost everyone's going to be drinking usually, and even if it's just a glass of wine. Right. And somebody has to be the responsible one, right? Somebody has to be the parent of the wedding.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yes, that's my job. It's my job to make sure that nobody does anything stupid.
She got to do that to me personally. So
yes, Anthony's sister got married last year. And he not only performed the wedding, but he got
married
to be
her,
a guest.
I designed it, and I was a guest because we lost our father a couple years ago, and it was my due diligence to do my sister's wedding. Mm-hmm. So I got to have a babysitter that night because I don't remember much.
So I was mom.
So. And that's, you have to do that. It's the stuff that you don't think about after the fact. And it's just like with us, like you can represent yourself, but it's the things that, that are going to cost you big later that you're not thinking about is where we really show up with our value. Absolutely. And negotiating, that's a huge part. I heard you say earlier you negotiate rentals.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's not a contract that my clients sign that we have not looked through and tried to get the best possible deal. Are you going to hire a $5,000 photographer and ask them to do it for $1,000? No. We're not going to disrespect
Well, you're going to get what you pay for.
But we're going to get what you pay for. But my best example is I have a doctor and a nurse that are getting married, and the doctor does not believe that wedding planning is a good expense for their wedding. And they're the cutest couple ever. And because I can do whatever I want, I had her come back in yesterday so that I could kind of explain to her everything that's going to go into this. And as she's sitting talking, she's like, oh my gosh, my fiance did a website. I want you to see it. And typically that's something we do for our clients. We build their wedding websites. So I pull the website up and I'm looking through it, and I go to the accommodations page, and at the bottom it says, if you're going to come to the reception, which is in St. Pete Beach, please consider staying at one of these hotels so that you don't drink and drive. And the first hotel, the name was wrong. The second hotel is near the Skyway, not St. Pete Beach. And the third hotel is an all-gay resort. So I was looking through this and I was like, did you send this to your friends yet? and I was like, so right there's proof positive of why you should have a professional driving this bus.
So I know you guys do a lot of things. You do weddings, you do homecomings, you do birthday parties, milestone birthday parties.
Yes, bar and bat mitzvahs.
Proms, hotels.
Yes, we decorate 4 hotels for Christmas in addition to everything that we do.
Not to mention all the clients that we do for
Yes.
their homes at Christmas time, too, because we also do interior, between the both of us, we do interior home decor for holidays, for parties, for seasonal. So, we're not just limited to that umbrella that people think, oh, you're a flower designer, remember that word, or you're an event planner. We're designers, so we make sure that we're available for our clients for their needs. So that means the big difference.
We just did a great, I guess it's called a progressive dinner for one of our clients at Shorecrest.
So what is a progressive dinner? Explain it.
It's where you have 5 courses, and the group goes from one house for appetizers, one house for salad, one house for intermezzo, one house for dinner, one house for dessert. So the dessert house called me and said, listen, I've got this. It's 100 guests. She didn't want to mess with anything. She wanted to be able to go to each one of the houses. So she gave me a budget, and we took care of everything. It was a Mexican fiesta. We even had pedicabs to take the people back to their cars. Because
you had what cabs?
Pedicabs. Have you seen those? They're little bikes, and they have a cab on the back of them.
Oh, yeah.
Because nobody but me thought, how are all these people going to get from house 5 back to house 1 where their car's parked? So we do something as little as that. It was a Friday night. It was from 8 to 10, and that was all.
It was a great time.
But it was a great time, and we allowed her to actually be present at the event and not work her event.
What about the open house for the new home construction? That was our latest one for our real estate folks. We've went in and done bars with simple decor to have other brokers and realtors come in to view new constructions.
Right.
That's the greatest thing. That's a lot of fun because we get to also meet other realtors because real estate gifts and parties are very important for your clients. Right. So we had a great time doing that.
We do our it's a little bit different, but I think everything we do is different.
Oh, sure.
But what we do is we have what we call our moving day survival kit. Okay. So yeah, we could send them a gift card for some restaurant, whatever. But in their moving day survival kit, we're going to have all the stuff that they're not going to have, that they're not thinking about because they have everything packed up in a box.
Yep.
And so when I tell you we had a lot of time to think about this and plan it, and we got checklists for everything, I know what you mean. Because there's everything from toilet paper to paper towels to foil for the cat's food because the cat traveled and only eats half a can. I mean, little stuff like that.
Absolutely.
And it sounds silly.
It's true.
Until you're looking for toilet paper. Right?
Well, it's just like she comes with a suitcase, and you're like, "What is that?"
I have an
And let me tell you
emergency
what,
kit.
we could remake a dress out for emergency kit.
And
I'm not kidding.
And we absolutely have.
Absolutely.
So let's share some of your craziest stories because I think that's when people really get it.
So typically we give our brides nicknames. We try and not be
In a
derogatory.
positive way.
We name our houses too, so it's okay.
Absolutely.
So my favorite is, her name is Crockpot. And the reason she's Crockpot is that 13 days prior to the wedding, the groom threw a crock pot full of beef stew at this girl's head.
The bride.
The
Yes.
bride. Missed it by maybe half an inch, and the wedding was off. That was it. My parents flew in from out of town. We sat down, and I was like, I need...
The wedding insurance cover that?
I said,
crock pot?
all I need is your wedding insurance rider. And then we need to see how the doctor feels. If the doctor feels like, because of the trauma she's been through, that she just cannot enter into a marriage contract, then yes, the wedding insurance covers it. If you just decide you don't want to marry someone that hit you in the head with a crock pot, then no, the wedding insurance doesn't cover it. So there was no insurance. They fibbed and said they got it when they actually didn't. So this poor girl's parents made her have what we call the unwedding. Mm-hmm. The band had to come. The DJ had to come. The photographer came and shot family portraits. The wedding cake was turned into an anniversary cake for her parents. And everybody just kind of stood around like zombies looking at each other like, what do we do? What do we do? Is it over yet? Is it over yet?
And, we actually met from a bride and a groom that were almost 40 years old before they were to get married and in a negative situation.
Client I've ever had in my career.
And we don't want to talk bad about clients,
No,
but
but
we
it
all
happens.
have them.
We
all
and
have them.
sometimes you don't realize they're crazy until you get in bed with them, I guess. You know?
Absolutely.
And to this day, we look at her pictures, and all we can think of is Queen of England.
Yes.
So what happened with that one?
Oh, my gosh.
I think the best one was when she left the room and wanted to come back in and talk to us and say, we really got to tell you something, which we won't go any further with it.
Typically, that conversation is
they're going to have a baby. You know,
that's usually the 2 weeks out. I get a phone call. We need to see you.
But
they come in and say we're pregnant.
This one was she was a little nervous because she's never had intimacy before.
Okay.
So, you get a lot of personal talking, and we get personal with our clients. And, like you do. I'm sure you do as well.
Absolutely.
Yes,
we have a consultation for an hour before we ever work with a client because we need to know why we're there.
Totally.
Right now, we are counting down the minutes until our bride from October 2 years ago gives birth. She's due any second.
Any minute. And her sister-in-law is getting ready to get married next weekend.
Her sister-in-law is getting married next
we
weekend.
got both of them at the same time, so we're very excited.
Yes.
Very excited for the family.
So super religious family, very, very Catholic.
Wonderful
high mass
people.
at Sacred Heart
Wonderful
for this
people.
wedding. And she pops the intimacy thing on. And we're looking at each other like, don't say anything. Just don't say anything. Just don't say anything. So we're at the wedding, and it's at the Italian Club in Ybor City, which is a beautiful venue, but it's in Ybor City.
Right.
So on a Saturday night at 10 o'clock when we're waiting for the bus to come, here goes a transvestite with no underwear on and a ballerina tutu. And I was just like, oh my God, did they see that? Did they see that? And it's like the craziest thing. And then next thing you know, there is a midget in spandex walking by. And I was like, okay, all I need now are the naked girls. And not 2 seconds later.
There you go.
Here they come, 2 girls running down the street in Ybor City with no clothes on.
So we got to meet on really interesting terms, and now I think it's...
That's how you guys met initially?
Yes.
Absolutely,
That's how we
for
met.
that particular client. And it was that she was trying to play me because I'm also a stylist. So she was trying to play me against her, and in reality, we played with each other.
Yes.
And we became soulmates in that sense of business.
Absolutely.
We are personal friends outside of work. We have children that we hang out and do stuff together, but we're business is business. Black and white is black and white.
And on more than one occasion, like our clients can use any vendor they
Absolutely.
want. We don't limit. Like when my clients come in, it's not you have to use Anthony as your floral designer. But more than once, I've called him and sent him a picture from my camera phone and been like, "Tell me how to fix this," because another florist will put a flower that just doesn't belong, and I've got to fix the mess. And I'm like, please help me.
That's family, and that's a team.
Yeah.
I have had so much fun with you. My fabulous guest today, Anthony Swick with Bay Bouquet Floral Studio.
Thank you very much.
And Christy Craft with Ideal Design Events. We're going to post those 5 things you need to know before you ever plan your next event on our Facebook page. You can catch it at TampaHomeTalk.com and across the web. We are also on Facebook and Twitter. Just search for Tampa Home Talk. And our off-air number, 813-377-2775. You can call us or text us at 813-377-2775. For this week, we are out.